First question, I just want to know, Alka, how do you, first question, I know you would be like, okay, this is a question I always get. How do you do it? Like, how do you look so great, those red lipsticks and that hairstyle, and always perfect with the framing and camera? And as I was just telling you behind the camera before we started recording, that I mean, there's lots of amazing authors selling books and telling us lots of great stories. But the Henna Artist, I think the first thing that attracted me was the author herself, was you. So there's something in you. Tell us more. First, tell me about that. What is it?
I have spent 30 years in advertising and marketing. So I have been on the other side of the camera so often, and helping direct what the commercial is going to look like, or helping direct the actors. They're constantly asking me, how do you want this particular dialogue to be read? So that's, I've been doing that for so long. I've just not been in front of the camera before. So this is kind of new for me, and it's actually exciting. I like it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. That the first video that I have noticed, which actually the first one from your channel, I think it was on Facebook or Instagram, that got me the attention was your video where you were doing this cooking with the Henna. Yes. And I cannot tell you enough. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about your book, Henna Artist, but I want to talk a little bit about you. That I was like, I really need to read this book. This amazing woman is making samosas, and every now and then she's, bringing up the story once in a while, and the way you incorporated everything. And, I was like, I want to know more about her. Who is she? So I remember that video, and today you just told me you did it yourself on your phone. And is it something that you get quite often from other authors as well? Like, how do you do this?
Yeah, I get questions from authors like, how do you sound so natural in front of the camera? I don't know. I think it's just, my experience with, the camera on the other side. But I also think that it has a lot to do with who I am as a person. So I started off life as being very shy. I was so shy, you would not have recognized me, Sonia. I was, the kind of girl that people would always say, why doesn't she talk? What's wrong with her? Why isn't she talking? Well, it was because I was observing all of those years.
As in back in
India.
Or back in India. Okay, yes.
Yeah, back in India. Yeah. And then also after we moved here when I was 9 years old to the United States, people would always say, why doesn't she talk? Why doesn't she talk? Well, I was just watching people. I was watching the spaces in between the dialogues, and I didn't even know that I was picking up all of these things about, their expressions, what they're saying versus what they're showing on their faces. And I think it's helped me to become a better writer, but it's also helped me just in terms of a camera presence. Like, what are people looking for in somebody? They're looking for somebody who's going to give them something exciting to listen to. They're looking for some kind of energy, and they're looking for a joy. And that is really something that I hope to bring about with my book, is a joy in being a woman who is resilient, being a woman who is strong and brave and courageous enough to change her life's destiny if that is what she wants to do.
Reading Henna Artist as well. I'm on chapter, I think 5 or 6 right now, and even last night I was reading it, and then I was like, I just got hooked onto it, and before I could get to the book, I just want to say that few of our audience in Bangladesh, they might not know a lot about you. So if I could go from the beginning, like if I could know a little bit about you and your mom, that, what kind of friendship did you guys have, and how was it just growing up with her?
My mother was, of course, one of those women who is completely devoted to her children. And so I think that always from the very beginning, she was looking out for each of her 3 kids. And she did not want me as her daughter to be considered less than, or a second-class citizen, or somebody who is less powerful than my brothers. So I remember this time I must have been 4 years old, and my brothers were like 3 and 6 or something. And we're all in Jodhpur. That's where we were all born, and that's where we were living in Rajasthan. And we're all sitting around the dinner table. My mother is giving us food. And she noticed that my grandmother, who was visiting at the time, was putting more food on my brother's plates than on mine. And she asked my grandmother, "What are you doing?" And my grandmother said, "Well, they're boys. They need more food." And my mother said, "No, not in my house. In my house, my girl gets treated the same as my boys." So from a very early age, I knew that my mother was different, you know, that she was willing to speak up for me. And she always did that throughout her life. So I wanted to be just like my mom. She was beautiful. She loved fashion. I wanted to look just like her. So sometimes when she had her salwar kameez made at the tailor, she would make a mini version just for me, and I would have my little chunni and everything. And you know, I just wanted everything like her. I wanted her jewelry. I wanted all of those things. So yeah, and then we all moved in 1967. My father wanted to get his doctorate in civil engineering, and he wanted to do research at a particular university here in the United States. So that's why we moved here. And so, you know, even then, my mother was a little lost. You know, for the first time, I saw that my mother was a little lost, because all of a sudden she's in a very foreign environment. She knows how to speak English and she understands English, but she has never spoken a lot of it. And so I became her mouthpiece a lot. So she would say, "Honey, call the gas company and we need to have the gas turned on." Ask the grocery store guy, where is dhania? How do you say that in English? And ask him in English. So I became her mouthpiece. And so I actually became, I think, a little bit closer to her because I felt like I was
during that.
Yeah, I was speaking through her.
During that phase. Yeah.
And then, you know, as I grew up, I just thought, well, you know, I guess my mother is, she's just very Indian. She's wearing her saris, you know, she's doing all of those kinds of, you know, Indian things. She looks like a very Indian person. And I wanted to be very American. So I am dressing in my jeans, and, you know, I'm out and about, and I go to all the movies, the American movies and so on. And so, you know, I kind of drew a little bit apart from my mother for a number of years. But then as I got older and she got older, I had a chance to spend more time with her. The last 7 years of her life, she actually lived with my husband and me. And during those years, I took her back and forth to Jaipur quite a bit. My younger brother had bought a condo there just so my parents could go visit. And so it became this kind of fun place for Mom and I to go. And Mom would say, "Let's go to the fruit market where I can get that bale fruit that I like so much. And and then the mangoes are in season right now. Let's go get those." And then she would say, "Let's go to the sari store so we can, you know, check out all the different saris that are going on." So I got a chance to look at India through her eyes for the first time. You know, now as an adult, I was able to see her India. And I gained this appreciation for her India that I had never had before. The things that she missed about India, the things that she missed about being a girl, the kinds of courses that she liked to study, the books that she liked to read, the magazines that she liked to look through. So it was really fun for me to rediscover my mother in her 70s.
Such amazing response. How are you enjoying it? How do you feel? And what's your exact state of mind now? How are you feeling this?
Well, I am so pleasantly surprised at how everybody has been reacting to the book. You know, I wrote a book that I wanted to write for my mother. So I wanted to say, "Mom, I can't change your life, but I can change it in fiction. So here it is, the Henna Artist. I have reimagined your life as a very independent woman without any children, without a husband, and now you get to be completely 100% yourself.
Wow.
And so I wrote a book that I wanted to read also. And I'm surprised at the thousands and thousands of people who are also reacting and saying, oh, I love this book. This feels like my book. This feels like my mother's book. Yeah, this feels like my grandmother's book. So I love that response. On March 11th, we got the call that Reese Witherspoon was going to pick it for her May book club. And then for 6 weeks, I had to keep completely quiet because Reese has to be the first person to announce it. And so I was told by my publisher, you cannot tell anybody. And I said, can I at least tell my husband? Because like I live with him, I'm not sure I can keep quiet for 6 weeks. They said, yeah. Go ahead, no problem.
Yeah.
So
it was the May, the month of May.
And so during that month, my publisher was still pushing the book as a book club pick because they had always assumed that this would be a great book for discussion with clubs because it's about culture, it's about women, it's about independence, it's about self-confidence and self-esteem. So they really thought this will be a great book club book. And then when Reese came out with her announcement, then during that month we suddenly became a New York Times bestseller and an LA Times bestseller and a Toronto Star bestseller and all these bestsellers. So that was really, really fun. I had so much fun with that.
Another character I just saw, which was Kanta, I could rather relate to people like Kanta. I have few friends who are like Kanta and I love them. And I would rather be Kanta, who's a rebellious, who's not liked by everyone, but it's okay. But who is a self-pleaser rather than being a people pleaser. But I could just feel it that, when I see my mom's life as well, like not even for a second, I could not ever think of her as a woman. It's always like, she's my mom. She will do it. It's her job. She will do it for me. Or she'll do it for Papa. Or she will, but we often miss it out. For years, we miss the fact that she also had some desires. She was good in painting or like movies and music. And, we never really, did she really nurture herself or her desires? She didn't. Alka often, even a person like me, my mom always allowed me to work and to go out and explore or do whatever I want, make all the mistakes. Even then, she tried to make me as confident as possible. Even then, I hear things from people that, are you sure you're doing this? I don't think you can make it. It's not that easy, We women hear it all the time.
All the time. Yes.
And then we lose confidence.
Yes. And that is one of the things I wanted to point out. And the character of Radha, even though she's 13, people say, how could Radha possibly know what she wants in her life? Why is she so headstrong? How did she get to be so headstrong? When I was 13, I wasn't like that. I didn't know what I wanted. Well, you know what? I think girls know what they want at a very early age. But Sonia, it's just like you said, we have it beaten out of us. Every single day we get the messages like, you're not strong enough, you're not confident enough. You know what, maybe you should rethink this. Maybe you should double think all of the choices that you're making, all of the thoughts that you're having. We get told that we are too thin or too fat. We need to color our hair. We need to look younger. We need to not be as smart as the guy next to us. We need to, not dress like a slut. We need to not dress like a prude. We are constantly being bombarded with messages that men don't have, men don't get. Yeah. So it is no wonder that we grow into women that are always doubting ourselves. Self-doubt is a big thing for women. The messages are all there every time we open up a magazine. Every time we look at the cover of the magazine, 10 ways to be thinner, 3 ways to look sexier, all of that. So what I want to say is, in the book, with each of these women, they are whole just the way they are. I think we as women are so strong and so resilient, and I want all women to feel that message, to feel that they are all that already. They don't have to change themselves to become something else. They already have everything they need within themselves to be this force to be reckoned with.
There is sometimes when I tell my husband that I know people think that I'm a man hater, but I don't hate men. I just don't like this whole attitude towards me that, that's it. I mean, of course I love men who respect their wife, mother, sisters. That's it. That's all I want, respect. And is it too much to ask for? And I think this is a problem.
Yeah, absolutely not. And the book starts out by saying independence changed everything and independence changed nothing.
And it didn't change nothing.
So independence did change some things for many Indians, in the sense that it gave Indians a sense of freedom. It gave them a sense of, having the country back from the British. I mean, remember, the British ruled for hundreds of years. And then before that, it was Mughal Empire for many, many, many years. And so finally, South Asians said, okay, we have our land back. We will deal with this. We will set up our own policies for our own people. But what it didn't change was the status of women. The status of women was the same as it ever was. They were still beholden to men, to the patriarchal system for all of their needs.
Yeah. Your experience in the advertising, I really want to know a bit about that. So how was it like? Did you have all these kind of, more or less, I'm sure it's the similar kind of problems that, especially it's a business where it's marketing, advertising, you work with products, models, and, ideas. And did you face problems like that? That, you're a woman, what would you know? And, things like that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I worked for McCann Erickson, which is one of the largest ad agencies in the world. And we were doing TV commercials and radio commercials and a lot of, magazine and newspaper advertising. And I was on the creative side. So I was always in the position of presenting creative ideas, campaigns for clients.
Yeah.
And I experienced this very interesting phenomena, which is, my ideas weren't always presented to the client, whereas like maybe the guys who were teamed up and presenting creative ideas would get their ideas presented. And I would be like, well, I don't understand. Why is it that their ideas get presented and mine don't? It's not making any sense to me. And so what I eventually ended up doing after 10 years, after going to my bosses, after going to personnel and saying, hey, I deserve more money. Look, I just brought in a $5 million client because of a presentation I made. I'd like some more money now. I'd like a bonus. I'd like this. I was told that I was too assertive, that I was a troublemaker,
You're very difficult to work with.
I was difficult to work with. And I'm like, I am the least difficult person on the planet. I've never been fired or laid off from a job. And so I thought, okay, well, this is interesting. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off on my own. I'm going to start my own agency and I'm going to set my own rules. So that's what I did in 1995. I set up my own marketing and advertising agency, and I decided I was only going to hire women. So I just hired women as copywriters, as graphic designers, as art directors, and then we just went about creating these fabulous pieces of work.
Wow.
I also, in my personal life, try to always hire women contractors, women gardeners. When I can, I always try to hire women because women don't get the opportunities that men do still today. And Sonia, let me tell you something kind of interesting. I have just completed, I think, my 100th book club on Zoom. And so, almost every night I'm talking to different women from around the world, readers from around the world who have read the Henna Artist. And one of the things that the young South Asian women that are, in their 20s and 30s tell me is that situation has not changed in business for them. That it is still very much a man's world, that they are still fighting sexism and and a little bit of colorism as well. So
Absolutely.
that's still happening, and that makes me really sad because I feel that, you know, in the 80s when I was out in the corporate world working for these large companies, I really thought that in the intervening 30 years things would have changed, or 30, 40 years would have changed, but they haven't.
So the more we dig in and the more we read and see and learn and from life, I mean, this whole conspiracy, it's like never ending, like on every level if you see. And do you think, how far are we women to be blamed as well in not supporting each other for other women?
I think that we do make things difficult, and I think it's because women are pitted against each other from a very young age. Who is prettier? Who is smarter? You know, who has better clothes? And I tried to show that also in the book. Because in the Henna Artist, you see women who are supporting each other and you see women who are tearing each other down. And there are both kinds of women in this world. I do think that, like you said, I think that it would behoove us to really support each other. But you know, even in, let's say, soap operas on television, we see a lot of women tearing each other down. We see mother-in-laws who are not kind to their daughter-in-laws because they feel like it's my turn to be the boss, and so I'm going to make life difficult for my daughter-in-law. Now people, you know, this is how it's portrayed on broadcast media. So wouldn't it affect the minds of young girls and women everywhere? Oh, you know, women are treacherous. I better watch out. I better you know, protect myself from that kind of thing. So I think that, you know, we perpetuate that sort of distrust of other women and competition with other women in the media. And we should probably, you know, really think twice about doing something like that. What I tried to show in the Henna Artist is that positive relationships with other women are possible. So for example, Lakshmi's mother-in-law is a very kind woman, and she has a great relationship with her daughter-in-law. And I wanted to show, hey, that's possible too. And then Kanta is like you said, you know, Kanta, you really love Kanta. And I love the fact that every reader has a different woman in the book that they can really relate to, which I thought was wonderful. But, you know, Kanta is very supportive of Lakshmi, very supportive of Radha, and really wants these women to excel. And then even Parvati, even though she sees Lakshmi as a woman that she can have power over and she can put down, but in the end, doesn't she also acknowledge that Lakshmi brings something amazing to their lives, to all of these women? And she ends up giving her the money for the house. So I wanted to show that I think it is possible for all of us as women to support each other. And if we don't support each other, men won't support us. So we have
That's
to be.
so true. Book, but my plan is that once I finish the book, I'll make a nice review of it and then give it reading.
And Sonia, don't you love the audio narration? Sneha Mathan
I love it. She did so well. She's so good.
So good, And I got a chance to pick her. So I picked the narrator.
Great choice.
And she and I worked for hours on how to pronounce all the different words because, you know, she's from a different part of India, so she pronounced words a little bit differently. And then she went over every character with me, including the talking bird, Madho Singh. She had.
Oh my God.
we actually went.
She is such a good voice artist. Her acting is so nice, and I was like, there were a few scenes like, you know, and how many accents does she know? She's like good in multiple accents and languages and everything. She was really good. Awesome. I will definitely do the review. And as I was saying, you know, I had few of my friends, they also said, you know, when is it gonna come in Bangladesh? I'm like, keep on ordering. They will be here. So so coming back to the book now, with the Henna Artist, like, what is your, like, once I finish it, like, there are few episodes, like few chapters I could imagine, like, you know, I would love to see it in a movie or see it in like a short film or like a short series, things like that. Do you have any plans like that for future? Or if anybody is interested or would approach, how would you want to go about that with this book? I know it's still very new, it's just been 4 months, but you might get offers like that. So what would your plan be? So if someone wants to make anything out of this book, for example, a part of this book, how does that work, or where would you like to do it as well?
Well, I would love to see an episodic TV series made out of this, because not only is this one book, but I have 2 other books coming in the trilogy. So it allows for season after season after season of
so there's part
content.
2 coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I would love to see this as an episodic series. We want to see Lakshmi's life. We want to see Malik's life. We want to see Radha's life. I think we want to see all of those young lives unfold and what happens to them. Everybody wants to know at the end of this book, do Lakshmi and Dr. Kumar get together? What happens to Malik? Everybody's very curious about Malik. Hey, that little guy has just stolen everybody's heart. And so they want to know what happens to him. What does he get involved in? What does he become as he grows up? He's such a hustler. Now what's he going to be? Is he going to turn into the next gully boy? What's going on?
Yeah. Plan a part 3 as well, or is it just part 2? 3. Awesome. So are you working on it now? Are you writing them now, or you're planning to do it in future?
The sequel is coming out in June of next year. So it is, so it's already written. I'm in the editing process now with my editor at the publishing house, and they bought it actually last December. So so that's coming out now, and because it took me 10 years to write this novel, it's really easy for me now to imagine these characters as grown-ups interacting with one another. I know these characters so deeply that the sequel only took me less than a year. And then I think the third in the series, which will be Radha's story, is going to probably just take me another year also. So the sequels are coming very rapidly, and I think everything should be done by 2023.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I just want to know another thing that with this book, as you said, I mean, it took you 10 years. So what was your mom's take on this whole thing? Like, while you started writing it, I heard that you took her to Jaipur a few times, but how was it like? How was her reaction? And
So I was writing this book while I was in Jaipur. Many of the scenes that take place on the streets are because I was in Jaipur at the time, and I could really smell and hear and sense what it was like to be there. So I would read those parts aloud to Mom. And then, of course, the Henna Artist became my thesis for my MFA in 2011. And so
that's what I wanted to know as well. Yeah, that when did you decide to do your MFA?
When I was 51. When I was 51, I decided that there was a mortgage crisis in the U.S., which meant that my clients had stopped their projects, or they had scaled back. I didn't have enough business in my advertising agency. And so I thought, okay, what else can I do with my time? It's a perfect time to go back and get a graduate degree. So that's when I went back and got my MFA. And I'm so glad I did, because this became my thesis for the MFA. And so I had my mom in the audience, and I introduced everybody. I said, hey, this is my mother, and she was the inspiration for my book. And Mom, Mom was in the audience watching me read a portion of the book and present it. So that was all really fun, and she loved the book. And I think, I think mothers are all the same, right? Like anything you do, they just think it's so wonderful. So of course Mom was like, oh, awesome. This is so terrific. I want you to keep going with this. I hope this gets published, and all of that. Yeah.
How much do you think we can do at this point to change this whole mindset? Like, even in the 50s, whatever the scene was, more or less, we're still in the same, shell. We might have the freedom to now wear Western clothes, or, smoke on the street and whatever. But then again, there's this fight. And how do we overcome? I mean, if not we, I mean, how can I do it? Or is it something like we can all do it our own parts, and that's all it is? Like, I mean, what's the solution?
I think the solution is many solutions. I think that there are many different ways to go about this. One is that if we have children, if we have sons, we need to raise them differently, because we need to start when they are little. We need to start when they're little so that they understand what it is to do household chores, so that they know that, so that they get into a mindset of not thinking that it's somehow less than to be cooking or cleaning, that these are all just parts of life that they need to help out with. I recently had a wonderful call from a woman in Mumbai who read the Henna Artist and said, I love this story. This feels like my life, because I had to leave an abusive marriage. It took me a lot of courage, and I had to save up money so that I could rent an apartment for me and my son. But now that she has her divorce, and now that she is living by herself and has a job, she is raising her son to do the dishes, to do all of the things that she does. And I think that is so wonderful, because that is one place to start. Let's train our sons to be more understanding of what it is to actually live in an environment and help clean it and sustain it. That's number one. Another thing that we can all do is to speak up when we see an injustice towards a woman. So if we see a woman being harassed on the bus, if we see a woman being harassed on the street, we say, hey, stop that. Don't hurt her. Do not say these awful things to her. That is not, what a respectable person should be doing or thinking towards a woman. So I think we have to say things. And then I think in our own lives, when we can, we should support other women. So for example, if we know somebody, let's say that it's somebody who comes and to cook and clean for us, and they have a daughter, and that daughter could benefit from a better education or from some tutoring, I think we can help support that. We have the resources. You and I are very privileged, and there are a lot of very privileged people who are living right now in Bangladesh, in India and Pakistan, and we can help those people. My father, for example, set up a scholarship for Rajasthani girls. And so they can go study in the United States because Rajasthan is where we're from. But we can all do that in our positions of privilege. It doesn't take that much money for us to help somebody in different circumstances. And if we can help lift women up from poverty in whatever we do, then I think that is a great place to start too.
It's a big difference. I mean, I'll share a little bit with you, which I never do in any of my shows or on screen anyway. So I got married at the age of 19, and I was in a very wrong marriage, and then my mother was the only person who said, you don't need to deal with this. It's a mistake you made, and it's okay. And it was 13 years back, and I was very young, and she made sure that I end that marriage, and it was very hard for her, but she tried her level best to send me to England to pursue my 4 years of degree, so that I feel more confident, so that I see the world, and so that I don't feel suffocated post my divorce in Dhaka. So I was just 23 at that point, and she was like, this is nothing, where people in 2008-9, people were saying like, a girl who's divorced is like a big problem here.
Still today, people have that stigma of divorce. But
no matter how talented, how educated, how pretty you are, you're a divorcee, that means you're just finished. So my mom still took a lot of courage. And she was working day and night. She was working in a university for 25 years. So she was working. She made sure, even if it's super hard for her, First of all, she was against the marriage. I went against her will, got married. Didn't work. She still said it's fine, it's okay. And you know how you were saying, moms are always happy with their kids. Even if the little bit they will do, it's always big. And even no matter how big of a crime that you do, it's still fine. So I remember when I was 12 and my mom used to tell me, listen, now you're growing up. Okay, you'll have a lot of boys and friends in your life. If anything goes wrong, just let me tell you one, even if you murder anyone, don't tell anyone, come to me. So I'm the only one, I'm your only friend. And nobody's, these girls, these boys, they're not your friends. Okay, so even if you murder anyone, come to me and tell me, I will help you. No one needs to help you, I will help you. So you know, I always had this thing that, okay, I cannot trust anyone except my mom. She's my best friend, she's my only friend. And so it's these things that she has learned in her life. So she's being protective, or she's trying to help her daughter in her way. So I remember after that thing happened, she sent me back. And you know, many of my other relatives said, you know, what are you doing? She should still work on this marriage. She shouldn't give up. And my mom said, no, it's I can see my daughter, she has a great future. She's very smart. She doesn't need a husband. It's okay. She made a mistake. She's very normal, very Bangladeshi, very conservative. But wow, like she's so modern and she's so broad-minded, and she has a dream that I didn't even have. Because of her, I went to England. Because of her, today I'm so confident. Moms, they have this spirit, you know.
They see, you know, mothers see things in us that we don't see in ourselves. Like my mother always said, honey, don't doubt yourself. You are so great at so many things. You can draw, you can write, you can paint, you can do so many things. And she said, you know, don't ever doubt yourself. And meanwhile, you know, I'm doubting myself because I'm listening to all of these
other people.
Yeah, other people, and like, you know, the personnel director at the ad agency who's telling me I'm a troublemaker, and I'm like, oh, maybe I am a troublemaker, you know? And my mom's like, no, you're not. You can do amazing things. Don't listen to those people. Our mothers have so much to do with how strong and confident we become. You're so right, Sonia.
Like in my life, I think my biggest support system is my husband and my mom, and they are my actual managers. Like they manage my mindset and everything. Every time I'm going crazy, they're like, calm down, you're fine, you're doing good, you'll have problems, doesn't matter, life won't be easy. And
yeah, I mean, I rely so much on my husband in that way, and I picked a partner who would champion my successes. It was very important for me to marry someone who would always, first of all, take responsibility for their own life, instead of thinking that I was going to be their mother, their, you know, looking out after them, you know, that I was somehow going to be their caretaker. No, I didn't want any of that. And so I wanted a man who would take responsibility for himself and his own actions. And then the second thing is I wanted a man who could celebrate my successes and not feel belittled because of them. And it was my husband who actually said to me, you can write fiction. I think you can do this. You should start taking some evening classes and see if that's something you want to do.
And he's the one who inspired you to do the MFA as well. That, you know, I should give it a shot. And
I should give it a shot. I mean, I had the money. So, you know, one of the best things I think my husband and I did is we have our own bank accounts. So my money goes in my pot, his money goes in his pot. And so we get to do whatever we want with our money. You know, if it's something that we really, you know, want to do or aspiring to do or whatever. And so I thought, well, you know, I looked at my bank account. I thought, well, I have the money, so let me see if I can make this happen.
No, see, that's amazing. Yeah, imagine if you had a husband who was not, as you said, if you don't have a partner who can celebrate your success and be happy that, you know, and sometimes like these sort of things that you said, you know, for moms, we are always special, but you sometimes need that from your partner as well. Like I get it from my partner. Like there's times when he's like, you don't even know your own potentials. And I look at him and I look at my mom and I'm like, only you guys can see it. Nobody in the world can see it. And they're like, no, just be patient. The time isn't right. You're fine. So, you know,
You know,
Yeah,
even
it's amazing.
when I talk to book clubs, sometimes they have said in the Henna Artist, they go, you know, you have Dr. Kumar who comes in at the end and sort of helps Lakshmi fashion a new life for herself. And they said, you know, doesn't it feel kind of like you know, a man is helping her get out of a tough situation? And I said, we all need help. We all, just like you said, we all need support. None of us can do everything by ourselves. We do need help. Sometimes it comes from a man, sometimes it comes from a woman, sometimes it comes from a child like Malik. But you know, we all need support systems, and that is the way that we get ahead. None of us is perfect. We're not super people, you know. We can't do everything ourselves. We don't have big capes behind us that say, I'm super Sonia, I'm super Alka, you know, I can do everything myself.
So nice talking to you, Alka. If there's last few notes that you want to tell for the Bangladeshi women or audience, whoever would be reading your book, is there anything that you would want to tell our women in Bangladesh?
Yes, I want to tell the women of Bangladesh that if they right now have an older mother, father, aunt, uncle, grandmother, grandfather, whom they can talk to, interview, and write their histories, do that. Because histories have historically been written by men. One of the most beautiful things that I have found in doing the Henna Artist is I got to interview my mother and father and a lot of people in their age group who were alive during the 1950s when the novel takes place, so that I got a chance to see what their lives were like. And it really, I think, enriched my life, it enriched the book, and it enriched sort of my understanding of them. So I think that I would encourage women to do that with their families. Write down some of those histories and leave it either for the next generation or even do something with it. Write an essay, write a, you know, Bangladesh is filled with very literary people. It has a literary culture, a literary tradition. And Tagore, Tagore is one of the people whom I mentioned in the book. Yes, because Kanta
is from Calcutta.
Yes. And so I think that it is such a rich tradition in Bangladesh to, you know, write, to read, and I hope that women will continue to not only do that themselves, but to tell their daughters to do it too.
Now that you told me, I'm thinking, I should start writing too on my mom, like how she saw her life, you know. I mean, through her, I would, there's so much that I don't know about her yet, and I would want to know that. She's always been there for me, but it's all about me. I have never seen her. So
right. It's wonderful to see your parents in a different light. Like, you know, I love my dad too. I have a great relationship
70s,
with my
80s,
dad. He gave me so much information about the 1950s that I was able to incorporate into the book somehow. So I think that, you know, we have these huge repositories of information that are just within our families and we don't realize it.
Awesome.
So we should start writing about them. And then there was another point I wanted to make, and that was that, you know, I think women are incredibly resilient. I think that they are so powerful. They are so much more powerful than they realize. They are so much stronger than they realize. And I think that in writing some of these stories, that will become so evident to them. And I want women to gain that just personal knowledge of how much power they actually have. I just think it's so important for their generation and the next generation that's coming up.
Oh, thank you so much, Alka. I had a great time. I mean, I could go on and on for like next few hours as well, but I don't want you to have the trouble, because like every time we had a longer conversation, it's very difficult for them to send the you know, the file through the drive and everything. We're just gonna keep it very short, but still I would say short means 30 to 45 minutes of the episode. That will be the full episode. And thank you so much for giving me time and bearing with me and all the crisis in Dhaka and electricity and all that problems.
It was my pleasure. I hope everyone stays safe.
Thank you.
Not only because of the monsoons and the hurricanes, but also because of COVID and that everybody takes care and protects themselves. All right. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, Alka, and I hope to see you soon, and I will get in touch with you soon with this episode. Thank you so much for being here.
Salam.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's talk soon. Bye-bye. Bye.